was the shortest introduction I've ever had. President Fahey, members of the faculty, clergy, parents, relatives, friends, but especially the class of 2017. In fact, forget the others, starting with President Fahey. I'm just going to talk to you. And I'm going to start by telling you something that you've probably been suspecting. I will now confirm that it's true. The most difficult thing about graduating from college is listening to the commencement speaker. And this will be no different. But here you are. You've come this far. You've done everything right. You've earned your degrees. You're this close to getting this diploma. You're this close. And then they invite some guy from somewhere to come up here and say something about something. Because that's all that you're hearing right now is something about something. But as long as I'm here, at least let me take this opportunity to bring up G.K. Chesterton. Because I am hoping that somehow the fat guy will get us through this. Make it a better experience for all of us. Chesterton did not mind being called fat. He did not mind even being supposed to mind being called fat. He said it's impossible to be fat in secret. During World War I, he was accosted by a woman on the sidewalks of London who demanded, "Young man, why aren't you out at the front?" And he responded, "Madam, if you stand on this side, you'll see that I am out at the front." I was telling Dr. Fahey last night that a member of his parish, first-hand account, talked about the fact that her priest said to her, "I haven't seen you at Mass the last 3 Sundays." And she said, "Well, I was there, Father. I was sitting behind Mr. Chesterton." Chesterton said he was the politest man in all of England. He could stand up on a bus and offer his seat to 3 women at one time. But he also said he was the jolliest man in all of England because there's such a lot of me having a good time at once. He was not afraid of being fat, but he also wasn't afraid of speaking the truth, whether it was about being fat or about everything else. And Chesterton has a wonderful way of speaking the truth. The truth tends to shock us these days because we're so used to hearing falsehoods, which is why Chesterton so often comes across as being paradoxical. He says truth is stranger than fiction because we have made fiction to suit ourselves. He says, however wild I make my fictitious examples, the truth is always wilder. It does not seem possible to keep up with the exuberant idiocy of things as they really are today. Whatever occurs to me as ridiculous has always occurred to somebody else as wise. And though Chesterton dabbled in fiction, he earned his daily bread as a journalist, the kind of writer that we rely on even if we don't consider him reliable. Chesterton says, an educated man reads the newspaper. A truly educated man does not believe the newspaper after he's read it. Chesterton says that legend is what everyone in the village believes, whereas history is what the one person who writes it down believes. And he's usually a crank. But Chesterton's approach to history and to religion, just as his approach to fiction and journalism, is always refreshing and creative and provocative, and gets us to do something that we hate doing, something that is the most difficult thing to do, the thing called thinking. And Chesterton gets us to think, especially in a book like The Everlasting Man, where he suggests that there's a better way to approach history, to approach comparative religion. He suggests a better category into which to put the way we weigh and understand both religion and history. His four categories are these: God, the gods, the demons, and the philosophers. Now you're thinking. You see how difficult it is? God is the ultimate force behind the universe, but not just a force, a personality, the one who provides meaning, because meaning must have someone to mean it. But then God gets forgotten, as he often does. Then come the gods, the mythologies, the imaginative attempts to give meaning, to tell the human story over again with its heroes and its heartaches and its adventures and its loves and its battles and its living and dying and its ache for the eternal. And then there are the demons, who represent the shortcuts to pleasure, who represent the decay of virtue and the fascination with evil. When men grow weary of well-doing, when men do things not because they mistakenly think they are good, but because they know they are bad. And then there are the philosophers, who try to harness reality with the great gift of reason. And it's almost enough, but it's not enough. Chesterton says that when Christ steps onto the stage, history changes entirely. Christ stepped into a world populated with many gods, and yet he was a character utterly different from any character in mythology. It was only the gospel that met, in Chesterton's words, the mythological search for romance by being a story, and the philosophical search for truth by being a true story. When Christ set up his church, he brought together theology and philosophy for the first time. But he also stepped into a world full of demons, and he cast them out. In fact, on one notable occasion, he cast them into a herd of swine, upsetting the bacon market. Paganism ended with Christianity. As the old pagan civilization fell apart, but before a new Christian civilization was established, the world passed through a period of almost no civilization, a time known as the Dark Ages, when barbarian tribes ran wantonly, when men were ruled only by their appetite, men who did not build new things but only destroyed old things. But they were defeated. They were defeated by legendary figures such as King Arthur and historical figures such as King Alfred the Great. When Christian civilization rose from the ruins of the Dark Ages, it established the great cities, built universities, hospitals, cathedrals, and gave the world magnificent art and music and literature. But the last few centuries have seen the decline of civilization, of Christian civilization, and 100 years ago, G.K. Chesterton predicted the coming of a new Dark Ages. In his epic Ballad of the White Horse, Chesterton has King Alfred the Great prophesy about the return of the barbarian, but a new sort of barbarian who would destroy our institutions not with brute force, but with intellectual vandalism. They shall not come with warships, they shall not waste with brands, but books be all their eating, and ink be on their hands, not with the humor of hunters or savage skill in war, but ordering all things with dead words, Strings shall they make of beasts and birds, and wheels of wind and star. They shall come mild as monkish clerks with many a scroll and pen, and backward shall ye turn and gaze, desiring one of Alfred's days when pagans still were men. By this sign you shall know them, the breaking of the sword, and man no more a free knight that loves or hates his lord. By this sign you shall know them, that they ruin and make dark. By all men bound to nothing, being slaves without a lord. By one blind idiot world obeyed, too blind to be abhorred. By terror and the cruel tales of curse in bone and kin. By weird and weakness winning, accursed from the beginning. By detail of the sinning and denial of the sin. We have indeed reached the point where we have the detail of the sinning and the denial of the sin. We have given calm and clinical names to a multiplicity of perverse acts, and we have denied that they are sins. And though the sins of lust get all the publicity as the most detailed and the most denied, also denied are the sins of avarice and gluttony and envy and sloth and especially pride, as we've formed a crass commercial culture based on coveting and self-indulgence and instant gratification. We've built new temples with new temple prostitutes, new colosseums with new gladiators. We've created new mythologies with comic book heroes and constellations of science fiction characters roaming across a very strange night sky. The gods have returned. Our imaginations have run wild with alternative realities. And with the loss of faith has also come the loss of reason. Philosophy has once again become detached from theology, and each modern philosophy has gone mad in the clean, well-lit prison of one idea, attributing all human action either to biology or economics or environment or some other fashionable fatalism, all of it robbing us of our dignity and our free will. And the demons have also been unleashed again. As men's deeds grow dark and disturbing, but no matter how dark and disturbing they are, someone has made a movie about it. As Chesterton says, in the new version of the event at the Gerasene, we've left out the Redeemer, but we've kept the demons and the swine. So the society is falling apart, and it's falling apart because the basic brick with which a civilization is built is crumbling, and that brick is the family. Chesterton says that the family is fading into the background, and he fears that it's going to fade from the background. But he says it's going to be the family that will have to save civilization. Because in the new dark ages, the family will have to replace the role that was once filled by the monasteries. It will have to pass our culture and our learning and our art on to the next generation because our institutions will not do it. And at the same time, he says paradoxically, when the monks come back, marriages will come back. And anytime we talk about restoring Christian culture, anytime we talk about building new monasteries and traditional family, the inevitable objection is, well, you can't turn the clock back. Chesterton's reply, yeah, you actually can turn the clock back. The clock is a human invention. It's a machine, and you can set it at any time you want. We actually turn the clock back every year. It's a thing called daylight savings time. A purely human invention, a creative way to apprehend light. And so too, civilization is a human invention, and we can make or remake society according to any design we want if we decide to do it. Perhaps you've heard of the Benedict option. Rod Dreher gives a brilliant analysis of the New Dark Ages and makes a very compelling case for how to go about forming Christian communities. But as much as I agree with much of it, there's something about this strategy that strikes me as one of retreat rather than one of engagement, a siege mentality. We can't keep out the world, and we can't run away from the world. We have to transform the world. And so with all due respect to the Benedict option, I would like to propose the Chesterton option. It's not completely different, it's just different. What is the Chesterton option? Well, it starts with being faithful to the faith. St. Benedict did not set out to save culture. He was seeking God. The incarnation is the center of reality. It's the truth that affects all other truths. We have to not be afraid of telling that truth. It's worth dying for, but more importantly, it's worth living for. So from that start, we have to start taking control of our own lives. Not waiting around for the government to fix things, or for the next technological breakthrough, the new cure, the new device. Chesterton says it's a sign of decadence when we pay others to fight for us and others to dance for us and others to rule us. Doing things for ourselves would be revolutionary. Chesterton says it's cheap to own a slave. It's cheaper to be a slave. We have to free ourselves from all the things that would enslave us, whether they're electronic or chemical or cultural. And that doesn't mean not using those things. It means being as free not to use them as to use them, and not being dependent on them, but being in charge. What else? Work to become your own employer rather than someone else's employee. Whenever you can, buy local. Start your own school with like-minded parents who understand that there's nothing more important than the souls of your children. Join a cost-sharing healthcare cooperative instead of giving your money to a health insurance conglomerate that is officed in a glass skyscraper. Join a local credit union instead of a bank. Give part of your money to the poor and give them the dignity of being able to spend it themselves rather than spending it for them. Create your own entertainment instead of buying the paltry product peddled by the entertainment industry. Make your own art. Write poems, poems that rhyme. Read books. Read old books. Read Chesterton. Grow things. If you cannot grow vegetables or flowers, grow children. Every day should include a family meal where we linger long at the table. Every day should include a time of family prayer. Every day you should make a time of silence for yourself. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Keep yourself holy. Break the conventions and keep the commandments. And look at everything as if you're seeing it for the first time. Always be thankful. Always think about God. And if you are always thankful, you always will think about God. And you will be happy. Chesterton says the aim of human polity is human happiness. There's no obligation on us to be richer or busier or more efficient or more productive or progressive or in any way worldlier or wealthier if it does not make us happier. And so finally, I already said this, but I'll say it again because it's the last thing I'll say. Read Chesterton. Congratulations and God bless you.